All right, so Jimmy Ray, we've decided to virtualize our unified communications environment.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing we got to do?
Well, I think that, it's really kind of considering what it is we're going to virtualize. What platform did we choose? Is it going to be the B series or the C series?
Okay.
There's two separate things, and they're not too much different, but there are a few little nuances between the two, how we provision our drives and stuff. But I think if we take it to the most basic level, is how do we get Call Manager, Unified Communications Manager on the system itself.
Right.
And
it's virtualized. I should just be able to move an image to it, right?
Pop it right in. But the thing is, what is an image?
Oh.
So the big thing that kind of trips folks up is that the first thing I need to do is I got to put an ISO on that machine,
right.
Not just the install disk and not from a DVD.
Right.
It has to be the CD-ROM.
Yeah, where's the disk drive?
ISO. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I put my ISO on there, and it kind of layers on top of that machine, which is certainly step one. We've really simplified the process quite a bit with the templates that we have too as well, right?
So tell me a little bit more about these templates, because we were talking about those earlier. They sound really, really cool.
Yeah, so one thing that Cisco did to kind of simplify this, and to honestly make it so that we don't really need to have a data center geek next to us while we're installing UC, is to kind of take the data center-ness out of it.
Okay.
So once we get ESX and all that good stuff up going, we need to provision that for UC to work correctly. And we can do that with these templates, these OVA templates.
OVA.
OVA, I don't know what it stands for. Some type of offline virtualization assessment. I don't know what it stands for, I'll be honest with you.
But we'll look it up later.
But OVA is the extension that they use. And what we do is you open up vSphere, which is the one of the management clients that you would use, and you open up that template, and that template is already provisioned for everything you need for Comms Manager to get it actually up and going and stuff. And it saves so much time. I've done it with and without, and beyond a shadow of doubt, I would not install UC without using one of the templates. Really, really big time.
Now this is something that we prouide.
Yeah, free of charge.
Oh, even better, right?
Yeah, we got a link that I can actually give you. We can
awesome.
Go to it and download it.
So you mentioned vSphere,
yeah.
right? So okay, got my image installed. Yeah. I've used vSphere. So again, kind of coming from the UC environment where we haven't virtualized things, what is vSphere?
Okay, so vSphere is, so you're looking at, you got ESX right down here, and it's your, what it really is like your firmware abstraction layer. It's kind of layered over that allows me some transparency between my operating systems. vSphere is what manages that. It's actually looking at what the hardware is saying, what the ESX is doing in relation to the hardware, in relation to the software that's installed on that.
So it sounds like I could use this also, not just to get my ISO up and running, but to also monitor the hardware on that particular VM.
See, that's how you can tell the difference between somebody who's done this before and somebody who's just kind of new to it. It's kind of like the person who knows barbecue and the person who doesn't know barbecue, right? Because people who know what they eat dry barbecue. So one of the monitoring the hardware is something that a lot of the UC folks, more experienced folks, really are very resistant about here. They're like, wait a minute, man, if I give up my MCS or do this, I lose a lot of this hardware monitoring. How do I know when a failure happens?
Right, exactly. How do I know if I'm reaching maximum CPU memory usage, call volume, et cetera?
Exactly. So what we've done is that we have inside of the UCS itself, you have SIMC, the Cisco Integrated Management Console, which actually monitors the hardware versus software. Very cool application platform, especially for the C-Series. I really like it on the C-Series quite a bit. And then beyond that, then you have the VMware pieces. You have vSphere, which we've talked about, and then you have vCenter, which manages your vSpheres. So you can actually have a good overlay of what's going on. It's going to look at what your processor is, your memory use, what VM is using what resources, how that's using those, so you know when an alert happens, you can actually take action on it really quick.
So it actually kind of sounds like you get a better view at a more granular level than just, okay, I've got to look at this box, look at this box, look at this box. You can see the whole data center.
Yeah.
Right, and vCenter.
Yeah,
right?
and that's kind of one of those things that your data center folks are going to want to know. If you're going to virtualize in there, if you're going to play in their sandbox, you better make sure you have the right toys,
Yeah.
So, and this is something, now, and again, another great point is that, we've talked about you have to use ESXi. You know,
Right.
and a lot of people, oh, well, you know, we use ESX here because of the scripting and blah, blah,
Right.
blah. You can still use ESXi in an ESX environment.
Okay.
They're just managed differently.
So it's not a barrier for your
no,
data
no,
center
no, no,
folks.
no. It's not all or nothing.
Right.
You know, yes, it will integrate in with the same environment that I'm actually managing that
Good.
with in my own SAN, which is kind of cool. So you're not giving up anything, and it's not an extra burden on anybody else. Or
Wow, it
whatever.
sounds like we've actually put a lot of thought into this.
There's been a lot of thought to it,
Yeah.
which was pretty darn impressive, because when you're actually looking at doing this stuff, you not only have all your UC features, but then you also have all the functionality of everything you do inside of VM, and those sub products as well, like high availability, continuous backups,
Right.
you know, those type of things, which, you know, we support that too, obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
really
so
cool.
that was actually kind of one of the things too, you know, so let's say that you actually are a unified communications expert and you have a lot of familiarity with virtualization. What are the features that you're looking for that absolutely better be working from a virtualization standpoint?
Site recovery,
Yep.
backup,
Ugh, backup. Ugh, I think I just felt sick thinking about backups on old systems.
and high availability.
Okay.
Those have to work. I mean, I've got to be able to have that type of availability. Those are my three core base crown features inside of VMs that really make it really powerful. Other features, Fusion, stuff like that, which, you know, be supported later date, of course, are cool and add a lot more value and allow me to extend my data center. Out of the gate, I absolutely have to have high availability, consolidated backup, and site recovery, period.
Okay.
No compromise, those have to work.
So, you know, I'm going to ask the $1,000,000 question. What's the key thing that doesn't work today that's coming?
Well, you know, I mean, I mean, from the UC side itself, I think that there can always be a few cooler features to be added. You know, the music on hold,
Right.
you know, and those don't work over serial ports and stuff. And those kind of things are kind of cool to have. Virtualization stuff, I'd really honestly like to see Fusion running.
Okay.
I think that I love Fusion. I think it's great. I know the folks here really want to do that as well. So that stuff that's coming down the pike, that will actually be very cool. The base is there, and it's just going to keep adding, just like everything we do. It's pretty darn good out of the gate, and then, you know, a year or so later, it's like, holy freaking crap, this is awesome. You know, that kind of thing.
Right.
That's what you're going to see. A couple things I want to mention here is that when you're setting this up, a couple VM tricks when it comes to designing this. Let me go to my handy dandy TechWise blank screen here. Command P, and I just bet you, oops, that's the wrong pin.
Wrong
Boy,
pin.
I'd have the producer all up in my grill. Now, one of the things that is real important when you're setting up for your data centers is really how we're provisioning out our data store. When it comes to ESXi, ESXi typically runs in a RAID 0 environment, which typically means I've got these mirrored drives. Anything that happens on one happens on the other. And ESXi will work on the smallest piece of hard drive in here, so I've got all this big space for my UC stuff, which is typically on a RAID 5 drive.
Right.
Now, you know, again, we're all pretty much familiar with RAID drives and how parity works and all that good stuff. But the thing where we really want I really want to mention that I've noticed in my own testing that makes a huge difference is make sure that your data stores for ESXi are consistent with each other. You can set that up, and what that really means is that the data store is on the same partition that ESXi is, or you're really going to suffer some serious performance hits.
Really?
For darn sure, big time.
So this is critical.
Yeah. And you can set this up and get it running, then you can use vSphere, thank goodness. Man, I wish I knew how to spell sphere. I think that's right. vSphere to actually provision this and make this happen. It's called consistency. So I'm
Right.
making sure my data stores are consistent. And once they're consistent, then you actually get that, you know, the extra horsepower boost. And if you're in the lab, I definitely recommend you testing that just to see for yourself what a big difference it makes. But
Wow.
vSphere does it. You can set it up. If it's on the same servers and stuff, a lot of times it sets itself up automatically. But double check and make sure your data stores are consistent.
Okay.
Really, really darn important, I think.
Any other major things that came out in all of your testing?
That when you very first set it up, so that it actually can configure, because UCS is designed to run all day
Right.
long. That's the big advantage of a data center product, is that it has carrier class type availability.
Right.
And that's great for UC. Now UC has strong availability, the software is really strong, it's dependent a lot on the hardware underneath it, which is a server, you know, and servers have server problems. You know,
Right.
it's just how it is.
It happens.
UCS is carrier class type of hardware, which gives me some really nice advantages. But sometimes I need to break that process and make sure I get a good run. So I want to go in the BIOS the first thing and tell it to make sure that it is in quiet mode, disable quiet mode, that it boots into the CD-ROM first, not the hard drive. Because that's obviously not the default. We want, if it boots, we want it to kick in there really well, so that I can install it, and then it'll switch back automatically and run from there. But it's not really that much.
Good. Well, I know that when we first started talking about this show, as you mentioned, you were kind of unsure that people would want to move away from the MCS to the UCS.
I really was.
And long history in servers, and I was skeptical also, but I'm not hearing any compelling reasons to not do it.
No, I just can't think of one either, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, if it's right for your business, if your business is ready to be there, if you have the data center capability, right, you have a data center support system, then yes, right. But I'm not seeing any technical barriers. I'm actually seeing a lot of advantages.
You know what, the hard part about UC, when I first started learning Cisco UC, is all the friggin' parts, man. You know, it's, oh, you need MCS, you need this, you need that. I'm like, what the heck, you know? I mean, UCS simplifies that story so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does make it easier to understand. Easier is better, not only to understand and to learn and to train people on, it makes it easier to manage support and less parts to break and stuff. There's a lot of really huge bonuses in here. If I'm putting in a greenfield UCS, I'm looking at doing this. Or UC, and if I'm doing if I certainly have an MCS out there, I'm looking to actually migrate over to this.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks for all the time.
My pleasure.